We are just weeks out from the midterm elections, and one of the top political pollsters in the country is saying that Republican voters are being severely undercounted in every poll that you're seeing. If what he says is true, and we're still seeing Republicans gaining ground in races from one end of the country to the other, what does that mean for Democrats come Election Day? Welcome to Political Pop Culture, where the important and the not-so-important issues of the day are broken down, discussed, and occasionally even mocked and ridiculed. I am your host, JP, and this is my take. We have seen a dramatic shift in polls over the last few weeks. We have seen Republicans gaining ground not only in purple states like Nevada and Pennsylvania, but even in deeply blue states like Washington and, believe it or not, New York, where a new Trafalgar poll shows Republican Lee Zeldin trailing incumbent Democrat Kathy Hochul by only 1.9% in the gubernatorial race. 1.9% in New York. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm excited about this, and I promise I'm going to get there, so stay tuned until the end of the video. But first, Robert Cahaly is the founder of Trafalgar Group. He's also a senior strategist and pollster. Cahaly appeared on the Election Wire, which is Daily Wire's new podcast, and he said that Republican voters are being underestimated after MAGA Republicans were branded, quote, enemies of the state by establishment politicians and talking heads in the mainstream media. What he said about submerged voters, though, was really fascinating. Check out this clip.
You mentioned a term that really sort of perked my ears up. Submerged voters. Can you explain that for us?
In 2016, they were shy. They were shy Trump voters. They were for Trump, but they've been called deplorables and smelly Walmart voters. So they were hesitant, especially on live calls, to admit they were voting for Trump. It's called the social desirability bias. By 2020, when cancel culture was in and there was a pervading media environment about what you should and shouldn't say, what you should and shouldn't believe, they were hesitant to give their opinion, so you had to work very hard to get Republicans who were Trump supporting to participate in the polls, which led a lot of polls overrepresent the very small minority of Republicans who didn't consider themselves as Trump supporter of MAGA Republicans.
You know what? I actually just talked about this in a video a couple weeks ago, this very phenomena. I'm guilty of it myself. While I'm not a Republican, I am a registered independent voter. I tend to be conservative more often than not on most issues. As a result, I don't spend a lot of time in my regular life talking about my political views. The media has spent so much time over the last few years painting this picture of anybody with conservative thoughts as being the enemy, that many conservatives, many Republicans, and even many people like me, independents who tend to lean right, just don't talk openly about our politics.
2022 is totally different. Biden has, with his declaration of MAGA supporters kind of being the enemies of the state, with revelations about Facebook and the FBI working together, with the talk that the government's pressuring banks to keep track of credit card transactions for guns, it is not a logical, it's not even the least bit of a logical jump for a voter to suspect that maybe the government will keep track of what people answer in polls to kind of build a list of those MAGA Republicans that are such a threat to the country. And so they don't want to compete in polls at all, so we call them submerged.
I can't speak for anybody else, but I tell you what, I don't ever give correct information in polls. If I'm participating in a poll, I will intentionally give answers that do not represent my true feelings. Like Cahaly said in that clip, I don't know what's happening with the information once it's given. Even if it's an anonymous survey, they still have my phone number, and it doesn't take a hell of a lot of work to track down somebody through their phone number. Do I think that every pollster is giving information on those polled to the government? No, I don't. But on the other hand, 25 years ago, I would have said that the Patriot Act could never be passed in this country. Republican voters are staying submerged. They're flying under the radar, and like Cahaly said, not putting out yard signs and bumper stickers. They're either not participating in polls, or they're not giving accurate information. So why then are Republican candidates still moving up in polls nationwide? Because the Democrats don't have a platform to run on. Democrats are laser focused on the abortion issue because it's the only issue they think they can win on. Democrats have spent $125 million in this election cycle on advertisements focused on abortion. That's 20 times the amount of money they spent on abortion-related advertising in the 2018 midterms. I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are single-issue voters, voters who are only going to vote based on them wanting the right to terminate pregnancy, whenever and wherever they choose. But those voters, those single-issue voters, are not going to be enough to sway the election. A perfect example of that is in Arizona. CBS News, which is not right-wing by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they could be considered part of the Democrats' Ministry of Propaganda. They just released a poll that shows incumbent Democrat Senator Mark Kelly leading Republican challenger Blake Masters, but only by 3 points. And by the way, the margin of error in the poll is 3.8 points. Now, this poll had question after question about abortion, and the implication is that abortion is a major concern for Arizona voters. The problem is, even according to their own numbers, abortion isn't even in the top 5 most important issues to Arizona voters. Republicans clearly win on every single one of the top 5 issues that are most important to Arizona voters. The top issue, the economy, favors Republicans greatly. 60% of independents polled said that they have a pessimistic outlook on the Arizona economy. As in virtually every other race that we've looked at over the past few weeks, the trend shows independents are breaking towards Republican candidates. Arizona is in play, folks. And when you consider that MAGA Republicans are submerged, as Robert Cahaly said, Arizona just might be a great opportunity for Republicans to flip the Senate red. Okay, I know what you're thinking. JP, you were talking about New York. What's the story with New York? What's going on with that razor-thin lead that incumbent Governor Kathy Hochul has over Republican Lee Zeldin? In a Trafalgar Group poll conducted between September 30th and October 3rd, Hochul has a 1.9% lead over Zeldin. This is New York, folks. This is a deep blue state that in 2020 went for Joe Biden by over 23 points. This is the state where everyone's favorite moron, AOC, has been elected and re-elected to the House of Representatives. Hochul should be leading by double digits, but instead she's stuck in a race well within the 2.9% margin of error. And something really telling about this poll is that 53.6% of the participants identify as Democrats. Only 27.5% identify as Republicans. 9.7% of those polled claim to be undecided in the governor's race. That means that Democrats are crossing party lines to vote for Zeldin. While the Trafalgar Group poll doesn't show us what issues are important to New York voters, we do know from other polling that crime is near the top of the list. Violent crime is out of control in New York, with even Eric Adams, the Democrat mayor of New York City, blasting liberals in his own state for their insane policies on crime. Our criminal justice system is insane. It is dangerous, it's harmful, and it's destroying the fabric of our city. As a result of this insane, broken system, our recidivism rate has skyrocketed. Governor Kathy Hochul disagrees with reality and with Mayor Adams, and her soft stance on crime is part of the reason that Lee Zeldin is within the margin of error in this governor's race. Not long ago, I would have told you that it was impossible for Lee Zeldin to win in New York. I still think it's a long shot, but just the fact that he's showing in the margin of error, that should scare the absolute crap out of Democrats. Can you imagine, though, if Zeldin were to win? Oh my God, liberal heads would explode. That alone might get me to tune into CNN or MSNBC. Those reactions would be priceless. So here's the deal. I think Republicans have a great chance of taking the Senate. The House, my opinion, is a foregone conclusion. Republicans are going to pick up at least 30 to 35 seats in the House, and they might win as many as 50 or more. I think Republicans are going to pull off the upset, and I think they're going to take the Senate too. The sentiment is running against Joe Biden and the Democrats on all but one issue, and most people are not voting on that single issue. People are voting on the economy. They're voting on inflation. They're voting on crime. They're voting on the things that affect them directly. That has been a constant from previous election cycles, and if it holds true in this election cycle, we're going to see a red wave in just a few weeks. Hey, if you liked the video, do me a favor and hit the like button. And if you feel like it, click on subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's my take. What's your take? You can let me know your take in the comments below. You can also let me know your take by joining the cult at PolPopCult on all major social media outlets. Thank you for listening.